Check out Jared Leto in a cat costume and the other stars of the Met Gala 2023. The Metropolitan Museum of Art's ball this time was dedicated to Karl Lagerfeld. Jared Leto attended the Met Gala wearing a life-size puppet dressed as Squat the cat. Karl Lagerfeld. A line of beauty is the theme of an exhibition at the Metropolitan Museum of Art that opens May 5th and runs through July 16th. Costume Institute curator Andrew Bolton studied 6,000 works by Karl Lagerfeld, who began his design career in 1955 at Pierre Balmain and worked ceaselessly until his death in 2019, and selected 150 key pieces. Assembling them into a harmonious retrospective exhibition was helped by Japanese architect Tadao Ando, who drew on William Hogarth's 18th century book, An Analysis of Beauty. According to it, art and aesthetics centered around the so-called conceptual line of beauty, the S-shaped curve, which represents life and movement, as opposed to the straight line associated with immobility and inaction. Both the Metropolitan Museum of Art's auditorium and the carpeted walkway on the approaches to the Met were decorated according to these principles. The Met Gala is both a charity and a marketing event. The ball's guests help draw attention to the exhibition in progress. The unifying element is the dress code, which this year was also about Karl's beauty line. Vogue, the organizer of the event, wrote that since the designer has created collections for many fashion houses, Patou, Balmain, Chloe, Fendi, Chanel, and his own brand Karl Lagerfeld, the invited stars should not lack for inspiration. And he was right. This is the first Met Gala, when almost all the guests supported the declared theme. This cannot be said, for example, about the last year's event with the dress code In America, an anthology of fashion, which everyone interpreted in his own way, or not interpreted at all. This time the stars were divided into 3 camps, the first of which cosplayed Choupette, Karl Lagerfeld's favorite cat and main heiress. She herself did not show up at the ball, contrary to media expectations and heated rumors. For example, a few days before the Met Gala, Kim Kardashian came to visit her pet, leading to speculation that it was her who would come out with Choupette in her arms. But the heroine's absence wasn't felt, thanks to Doja Cat and Jared Leto, who played her. The former drew a frighteningly believable cat face. The latter climbed inside a fluffy, growing doll. But he couldn't keep up the intrigue for long. His costume was too bulky and hot. The second camp concentrated not on the outrage, although we should admit it paid off, in the form of thousands of reposts of photos and videos in the form of Choupette in social networks, but on practically research work with the legacy of Karl. However, it was done not by the stars themselves but by their stylists, many of whom have achieved phenomenal results. Nicole Kidman donned her Chanel N°5 dress from 2004. Dua Lipa repeated the bridal gown from the 1992 Chanel Couture show. Naomi Campbell looked 13 years ago, and Margot Robbie looked 30 years ago. There were those who looked into the archives not of Chanel, but of Chloe, the brand of which Karl Lagerfeld was creative director twice, in the 1960s to 80s and 1990s. Olivia Wilde appeared in his 1983 dress, though she was not alone in her choice. Margaret Zhang, editor-in-chief of Vogue China, wore the same dress by Chloe. Finally, the third camp cosplayed Lagerfeld himself, which in some cases was dictated by the desire to pay homage to the designer while having contracts with other brands. James McAvoy dramatically waved a black fan. Cara Delevingne wore leather mittens with lots of silver rings as the Kaiser did. Olivier Rustin repeated a shopper that read, "Karl who?" And $1 AP Rocky wore the kilt Karl wore at the 2004 Chanel show finale. The rapper, meanwhile, was wearing Gucci. Rihanna, who accompanied her partner, though it's still a question of who, and intentionally showed up late to the red carpet, chose a Valentino dress and cocoon jacket. The reference to the legacy of her favorite couturier was more subtle. Eyelash sunglasses from the 1993 Chanel collection. Some, in an attempt to maintain the dress code, went to radical changes in appearance and even beauty victims. Oscar-winning and fiery red-haired actress Jessica Chastain dyed her hair Lagerfeld ash blonde, commenting in a conversation with reporters, "It's not permanent, it's for Karl." Florence Pugh even shaved off her blonde locks for a feathered crown recreated by Valentino creative director Pierpaolo Piccioli, based on the Chanel show of 1995. Good thing the Dune shoot is over. Of course, there were also those few who ignored the stated theme either due to inexperience or in favor of just being beautiful. Pedro Pascal in a red coat, shorts and high socks. Irina Shayk in a Yohji Yamamoto nightie dress and ballet flats. Kylie Jenner in a Hyder Ackerman kimono. And Rachel Brosnahan in a sheer bodysuit and a Sergio Hudson long skirt, as if to echo her character from The Amazing Mrs. Maisel, tits up. The star of last year's Costume Institute ball, Kim Kardashian. This time, though she tried to conform to the dress code in the characteristic pearl threads of Karl's creativity and personal style, she rather copied not him, but herself, in a shoot for Playboy 2007.